What's up guys, my name is Ace, and recently Scump did a tier list for his favorite Call of Duty multiplayer experiences, focusing on public matches, and since that video came out, I've been flooded with comments and tweets with people asking me to do another one since I haven't done one of these since, I think, Black Ops 4's life cycle. So let's just dive right into this, and just keep in mind with this video, of course, these are my opinions. It's totally okay if you disagree or if your list is completely opposite. That's fine, I respect your opinion. All I ask is that you do the same with mine. And without further ado, let's dive right into this, and we'll just start it off with COD 4. When it comes to this game, this was like the first online multiplayer game that I really got into. Like, I played all the campaigns previously, but COD 4 was my first online multiplayer experience with an FPS game, and I love it, but I don't know if I could quite put it into S tier, so I think it holds a steady spot at the A tier for me. I will always have fond memories of that. It was revolutionary for its time, but at the same time, I feel like it was lacking in many areas. It didn't have the most depth to it, and therefore, yeah, we'll throw that as an A tier. Absolutely love it. As for World at War, it's kind of funny. I loved COD 4 so much, I didn't really play World at War's multiplayer much at all. I played COD 4 for 2 full years. So if I had to put this somewhere, I'd probably throw it at a C tier, and this is because I recognize that there's a lot of great things about this game with my limited playtime that I had, but I had such limited playtime, and in my playtime I also ran into a lot of bugs and glitches and stuff. I remember getting shot under the map a bunch of times, and I just didn't love this game, and that's why I went back to COD 4, so I'm just going to put it as a C tier for me. Next up, Modern Warfare 2. As many problems as this game had, like the one-man army noob tubes and everything, I'm putting this as an S tier COD. I pumped so many hours into this game. I absolutely loved it. I always say that this game had some of the highest highs, but then also some of the lowest lows with how broken things were. So I just love the dopamine that I got throughout playing that game, dropping nukes, getting crazy kill streaks that are just getting ridiculous amount of kills. It was just absolute chaos and so much fun because of that, and I also just love their map design, so that's why Modern Warfare 2 is pretty solid as an S tier COD for me. As for Black Ops 1, I loved it, but not as much as a lot of other people. Like, I thought Black Ops 1 was a great multiplayer game, but it just wasn't really my favorite at the time, so not enough to make it S tier, but still very solidly in the A tier. I really do like Black Ops 1. And it's kind of a similar story with Modern Warfare 3. I didn't love their map design a whole lot, but so many other elements in the game I loved. I loved the specialist bonus. That's one thing that always stands out to me from Modern Warfare 3, was getting that specialist bonus and then dropping Moabs and chasing that high game after game. Tons of great memories there, but I just feel like the map design in particular holds it back from being S tier, and that's why I would pop it as an A tier here. Then getting into Black Ops 2, this is my favorite Call of Duty game and possibly even my favorite video game of all time. I love Black Ops 2. I feel like it's the game that found the perfect balance between more competitive play while still being very accessible and fun for public matches, for regular casual Call of Duty players. It kind of bridged the gap there, and I also love the fact that I believe this is the first time they tried near future in a Call of Duty game. Everything previously was either modern or like World War II or historical type of a shooter. This was the first time they sort of jumped into near future, and I thought that was great. Creativity wise, there's a lot of great equipment and cool score streaks and stuff like that. And speaking of score streaks, this was the introduction of actual score streaks for the first time, which I thought was incredible, and therefore Black Ops 2 very, very solid in S tier for me. Definitely my favorite Call of Duty game. Next up, let's get into Ghosts, and I didn't hate Ghosts. I found some enjoyment with the game. I wouldn't say that it's absolute trash tier, but I also really wouldn't rank it very high, and I'm going to put it as a D tier here. Not quite bad enough to be F for me, since I still had some fun with it, but it just wasn't great in my opinion. Then when we talk about Advanced Warfare, I liked some elements, but after Black Ops 3 and Infinite Warfare came out especially, it really made me realize I didn't like the really jarring advanced movement system that Advanced Warfare had. The dashes were very, very sudden, and I like the more smooth advanced movement that Infinite Warfare and Black Ops 3 had. And also when we talk about supply drops and the fact that I still don't have some of the best variants in that game, I still don't have them, and I grinded that game a ton throughout the life cycle of the game. That was just really frustrating. That's why I'm going to put this as a C tier COD. I had fun with it, but it wasn't amazing for me. Then getting into Black Ops 3, I think this also deserves an S tier spot. I'm personally one of those players that loves advanced movement. I thought it added a really nice skill gap. I thought the really fluid movement in this was great as well compared to Advanced Warfare. And I like the setting, I like the map design, I like the score streaks that they had in that game. There's a lot that I really liked. Even the specialist characters that they had, I feel like they weren't overboard like we saw in some other games that we're going to be mentioning in a little bit, or at least one other game in particular. But yeah, I really like Black Ops 3, and I do think it deserves an S tier spot as somebody that likes jetpack CODs. I understand if you don't like jetpack CODs, and that's totally fine, but I did, and therefore that's why Black Ops 3 gets an S tier spot. Now, let's get into a very controversial Call of Duty. This is Infinite Warfare, and for those of you guys that have been around the channel for a long time, you'll know I absolutely love Infinite Warfare, despite the community's reaction to it. I get it, people were burnt out on jetpacks, they didn't like the super far future setting, and I totally understand that. But if we're just talking about my gameplay experience with this, since I don't really care too much about those things, I care about what the gameplay feels like. I loved the gameplay of Infinite Warfare. And now that I've got extra tiers, I remember last time I did this list, I put it as S tier, but I also had fewer categories to work with. I think I'm going to put it as an A tier instead of an S tier, just because I do feel like Black Ops 3, the game itself was a little bit more fleshed out. There was a little bit more going on with it and more replayability factor. And that's the only reason I'll drop Infinite Warfare down here. But I personally loved the gameplay of Infinite Warfare, and I'm not going to let public opinion sway that. It's an A tier COD for me. After that, we've got COD World War II, and this is, I think, well suited to a B tier for me. I think this really got held back by the state of the game within the first, I would say, like 3 months, until I think it was the Division's overhaul. I can't remember how many months down the road that was. But this is a game that launched in a fairly rough state, but it improved significantly throughout its life cycle. And by the end of the year for COD World War II, I thought it was actually an excellent Call of Duty game. And if we were just judging it by that standard, I'd probably put it as an A tier. But since it launched in such a rough state, which is kind of when the game was in its prime as well, it does deserve to be demoted down to a B tier for me. Then let's get into Black Ops 4, and I feel like that's another B tier COD for me. I didn't hate the game, I didn't love it either though. I liked a lot of the map design, I liked the time to kill in many ways, even though it made it difficult to balance one-shot kill weapons. And I think one of the biggest things that holds this game back from me when we're talking about the gameplay perspective, this is the specialists. I feel like the specialist stuff got way overboard in this game. And it was mainly the fact that you had not only the specialist like power abilities that could get you free kills, or just really powerful sort of abilities where you could see where everyone was through walls or something like that. You also had the specialist equipment that was free on your class. You didn't have to sacrifice anything to get it, and therefore everybody had one. And I think they were charging up in about 110 seconds, if I remember correctly. That was the average charge time for that. And when you factor all of that in with 6 players on each team, it just felt like a constant spam of these specialist items that were often unavoidable or uncounterable, or at least really annoying to deal with in many situations. That, combined with the fact that the weapons were in supply drops, especially toward the end of the year, there were a bunch of guns I never got, and I thought that was really frustrating as well. I think they definitely tightened that part up after the game was out of its life cycle, and they made it so you could trade 50 reserve crates for any gun that you wanted. If that would have been the case throughout the whole life cycle, I wouldn't have had nearly as many issues with this game, but since it did, I'm going to throw that as a B tier COD. Next up, we've got a very interesting and polarizing Call of Duty. This is Modern Warfare, and I know a lot of you guys know exactly where this is going to end up on my list, but I did want to explain myself a little bit. This is an F tier COD for me. Now, keep in mind, I'm not including Warzone with this. This is just strictly the Call of Duty regular multiplayer experience, not talking about any sort of side modes or Warzone or anything like that. Strictly talking about Modern Warfare's regular multiplayer. I think it was the most beautiful Call of Duty still to this date. It's the best looking COD. The art, the animations, the audio fidelity, all incredible. I will always give them credit for that. Everything outside of that though, the gameplay design decisions they made, I feel were awful. It led to a very slow-paced Call of Duty game. I feel like it took a lot of the big picture, higher level skills and awareness factor away from the game and substituted it for a very dumbed down version of that. That is just my opinion. I know a lot of you guys will disagree with that. That's totally fine. Like I said at the beginning, if this is an S tier COD for you, I'm happy for you. I'm glad you enjoyed it, but for me, it was awful. It's the only Call of Duty game where I simply couldn't find much enjoyment out of the regular multiplayer experience. Moving on, let's talk about Cold War a little bit. I thought Cold War was not bad. I feel like in some ways it was a return to form after a game like Modern Warfare. This played much more like the Call of Duty games that I know and love. And as a result, I'm going to throw it as a B tier COD. I don't think it was really incredible, didn't launch with a whole lot of content, and the post-launch support was rough at times, we'll say. And as a result, yeah, I think it's a pretty solid B tier COD for me. And finally for this list, since we're not going to be touching any of like the COD 1 through 3, since I only really played the campaign as well as like offline with friends, I think I played some multiplayer experience, like split screen stuff. We are going to just be finishing this off with Vanguard. And when it comes to this game, I don't think it's the complete like irredeemable trash that a lot of people think it is. I still enjoy playing it. I'm still streaming it on a regular basis. In fact, it's kind of the only game I'm interested in playing currently as far as games that are relevant and in their life cycle right now. And as a result, I'm going to put this as either a C or a D tier, probably a C tier. I'll give it a little bit of credit there. It launched with a ton of content. I think the gameplay itself is far superior to Modern Warfare, even though it doesn't look as good, the animations aren't as good, it's not as polished. The gameplay design philosophy, I think, is far better than Modern Warfare, but not as good as the golden age of Call of Duty. It's far from my favorite COD, but I also don't think it's nearly as bad as Modern Warfare or even Ghosts. I would much rather play this over Ghosts. And there we go. That's my tier list. Like I said, if you guys disagree with that, that's totally fine. Let me know in the comments section below. What would you change around with this tier list if we're sharing your tier list here? And what do you guys think of this tier list? Is there anything that you really strongly disagree with or strongly agree with? Just let me know all of those thoughts down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.